We're on the air in 30 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And good evening for the 2026 PIAA Basketball Championship Preview Show here on the PIAA Radio Network. I'm James Dobson. I will be stepping aside quite quickly and letting our Master of Ceremonies for the 12 games going on this weekend, Eric Thomas and Bob McCool, will be taking you through those 12 championship games. We're going to break them down here and get you ready before things start here at the Giants Center beginning at noon tomorrow. 4 games Thursday, 4 Friday, and 4 Saturday. So first, Bob, Eric, welcome. It's feels like yesterday we were out at Cumberland Valley for football championships, and now here we are again getting ready for hoops finals.
It's going to be a little bit warmer this time. At least we'll be inside. I think it'll be good. We got good matchups too. We ended up getting some interesting matchups. We'll talk about some of the ones that are happening. Dallastown girls, did not see that happening. Bob saw them early on in districts. I personally did not see Central Dauphin getting out of District 3. I did not see them getting through Newcastle or Upper St. Clair. And we got a lot to talk about with last night's semifinals too, because Berlin Brothers Valley had to go through the ringer on the girls' side just to play their semifinal game. And Oakland Catholic and Blackhawk last night's one of the best high school games I've ever seen.
Great to see you guys again. Great to hear from you as well. And I'm really excited. I think we obviously started this adventure with the PIAA Radio Network with the football finals and was quite frankly blown away by how many people found it and enjoyed it, took it in, and looking for this to just continue to grow more and more. And now obviously we got more coverage, more games, and more things to bring to everybody. From just a kind of an overall standpoint, there's obviously a lot of familiar names in there, and there's always the outliers that are not there. One familiar name there that still blows me away that they're there, even though what they do, and that's Devon Prep. I mean, after last year and winning the state championship, winning 3 out of the last 4, and an entire class that walked down the aisle, and pretty much an entire basketball team walked down the aisle at graduation, and they're right back here again. Don't look at the record. Don't be fooled.
Yeah, we've kind of been talking about that a little bit off between the two of us here, Bob, and their schedule was insane this year. So anybody who looks at that record and says, well, how the hell is a team that's 8-19 in the state championship game? Just go look at who they played. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first month of their season and some of the teams that they played in the non-conference. And then, oh, by the way, people seem to forget because they're not in the final. Archbishop Wood was one of the favorites to win the Catholic League. They played them. Newman Goretti was one of the favorites to get to Hershey on the boys' side. They played them. They played Roman Catholic, who was also potentially a favorite to get to Hershey. I mean, their schedule just up and down was loaded, and I don't know that there's a more battle-tested team and I don't remember a team in my life, at least. I know Fairfield had gotten there the one year at one of the lower classifications, and I think they were 13-15 or something just under 500. I don't remember a sub 500 team ever winning a state championship, though.
No, yeah. So they will be. They started this with 5 wins, and they now have 9 as they start the state championship. But then go back and look at what they did just to get here. They took down 3 district championships in the process of getting here. So they're real. Don't be fooled. Don't think it's some Cinderella story. I mean, you want to call it a Cinderella story, you can, but it's just good coaching. It's a good basketball team. They've taken care of business. But again, there's some people, there's some teams in there who are getting here for the first time, and that's always exciting. I mean, I don't care what you are or what you think. You get here for the first time you get to the state championship, it's something special.
And we're not even talking about who they play tomorrow night. Obama Academy, a City League school. And City League hasn't had a champion since Shenley was in the championship game 12 years ago, right? I think when they were still at the Jordan Center. So that's historic in its own right, and that Obama team is really good. They've been living kind of by the skin, but they have somehow pieced it together and got through there. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk to Dan Sostek from Penn Live. He's going to come up first, and then he'll recap what he has seen here in the semis, and he'll be there for all 12 games. So we'll get a kind of a full scale view from him. We'll talk to Brad Everett from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. 7 WPIL teams on both boys and girls combined are going to be in Hershey to play for titles. And one of them is going to lead off the weekend tomorrow. And that's the AA girls game between defending 2A champ Berlin Brothers Valley and Neshannock. So I'm going to bring in James Dotson again because James and I work together, and Neshannock is one of our regulars that we cover. We'll both have broadcast this game tomorrow in different areas. James is going to work with our network out of Lawrence County that he and I are a part of. And then, of course, I'll have the call for our radio network. But this Berlin Brothers Valley team, by the way, got on the bus the other night on Monday night to go play their semifinal, was 20 minutes away from the venue and was told the game was postponed. So they had to turn all the way back around, go back towards the Johnstown area. Rachel Prosser told me this today, and I couldn't believe it. And then get back on the bus again yesterday, make the trip, go play their game against Southern Columbia. And then she was just getting on the bus to take the team to Hershey when she had told me this whole story. And I'm like, well, are you just kind of like living on the thing now? Like, is this like a tour bus? Are you going, are you Keith Urban now? What are we doing? And yeah, it's been an up and down ride for him. But James, that'll be a really good game tomorrow to kick it off. And we know that Neshannock team really well. They just won the state title a couple years ago with Luann Grabowski. Many of these girls were not as players, but they were part of this team in one way or another as ball girls or kind of student managers. Fascinating game to tip it off because this Berlin team is just, I mean, they're so good with the Prosser sisters.
Oh, absolutely. And the elephant in the room, you got to go right to it, Eric, is you alluded to it, the amount of time that you've been on the bus and then this quick turnaround of playing a game on Thursday night. And I mean, luckily for Berlin, it's not the longest travel in the world to get from Berlin to the Giants Center. I mean, it's not like they're right in the heart of Philadelphia or near the Ohio border, but still, it's still a lot of time on a bus and a quick turnaround to be able to get home, rest up. You're playing a game 36 hours later. Oh, by the way, let's put in some sort of game plan and scouting plan for this Neshannock Lancers team, who has, I mean, I don't know it officially, but I think it's got to be the most veteran coach that you're going to see out in Hershey this weekend when you have Coach Grabowski with 801 wins now. In her 46 years as a head coach. But, it's a Neshannock team. Like you said, yeah, they made it to the championship game in 21, turned silver into gold that following year in 2022. But not only with, that experience, but with a team that a lot of these girls, if they haven't been on the softball team, that's won 3 out of the last 4 state championships, they've been around it. It's that winning mentality, and the winning breeds winning. And we've seen it in this Lawrence County area just with the softball and the basketball teams. The female sports in our Lawrence County area has been absolutely phenomenal over the past decade for sure. And I think that's what's kind of been showing off. But what I think was most impressive about Neshannock in that last game, their leading scorer, 1,000-point scorer, Peyton Newman, she goes out with her 4th foul. Another senior and 3-year starter, or excuse me, a junior and a 3-year starter in Ainsley Allison also goes out with a 4th foul just a minute into the 3rd quarter. So they're without 2 of their starters, including their leading scorer in that game against McCourt. And you have new players stepping up when they're called upon. A point guard who's mainly a distributor, Sophia Bonner, puts up 15 points on the second half. You have a freshman who comes in, a 6-foot freshman, has 3 3-pointers on the year. She hits 2 of them in that 4th quarter, 15 points herself. And, those two basically willed them the victory with their top player on the bench with foul trouble. So I think that was most telling for this Neshannock team, is that it's the deepest team Coach G has had in her 46 years. That's what she claims. And it was needed in the semifinals when they needed it most. They got it done.
We'll come back to this game a little bit later before we get done here, but we're going to bring in our first guest, Dan Sostek. He's been nice enough to join us on all 3 of our preview shows. And he's had some of the best games in this PIAA tournament, too, to talk about. Some of the most intriguing games. A little bit easier of a night for you last night, Dan, with Trinity and Bishop Guilfoyle, a rematch from earlier in the regular season. Shamrocks win it. They get West Catholic in the state championship game coming up on Saturday. We'll talk about them first, then we'll move on to the other team in 6A, who I will refrain from giving any opinions on. But I do not have, in fact, you guys, we're on camera with each other. I do not have a CD shirt on but I have a Hickory Huskers or Huskies
There we go.
shirt on.
Basically
So
the same thing.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. But let's talk a little bit about that Trinity game against Guilfoyle, because a lot of people thought this was going to be a game. A lot of people thought Guilfoyle was a favorite to get to Hershey, and this Shamrocks team's just on a different level right now, and they steamrolled a team that they had already handled in the regular season.
Yeah, it got tight in the late in the third, early fourth quarter. It just feels like there have been a lot of these games where these teams go up by big, and and then there's that one run they kind of have to survive. And in the third quarter, late, I forget if third or fourth, but Guilfoyle did cut the game to 1 point, and then I think Trinity kind of relocked back in. And when they were dialed in defensively, their length was just causing so much. So many issues for the Marauders. Like um, the story of the game is Andre Steele reached 1,000 career points as a junior, which is pretty impressive given that he played for 2 years behind Trinity's all-time scorer in Owen Schlager. And still reaching that as a junior is pretty tells you the type of player he is. He was just terrific in the game. He just can slash, he can shoot, and he really defends. But their defense is just they make it so hard for you to get a clean look on the outside. And I think that's what Guilfoyle came in wanting to do, is to hit threes. And you could just see it really muck up the offense for for Guilfoyle. Like I was talking with some people sitting next to me about how many times Guilfoyle would catch the ball in the perimeter and they would pump fake, and then they would realize, oh, that defender with the long arms is a little too close to me. I don't think I'm gonna get a clean look. And there were a couple times when they said, I'll shoot it anyway, and then it was either an air ball or a real bad miss. And I think that's what Trinity can do to a lot of teams. Now the question is, are they going to be able to do that against West Catholic? Because I think that's kind of where the one thing about a lot of these District 3 champs is that they were playing on the western side of the bracket, right? And they didn't really have to run into any of these. Central Dauphin had to play Souderton. They would have had to play, obviously it would, but they ended up playing Souderton instead. But they haven't had to play any of these, Philly private school teams. And it is a different beast of athleticism, especially when we talk about Central Dauphin later. These are good basketball teams. They play the right way, but also they have that trump card of a lot of times they're more athletic than these other teams are going up against. And it's going to be interesting to see when they don't have that complete advantage, what they're going to go to.
And Larry's biggest issue in the state tournament, going back to like the early 2000s, he would get the District 12 team early in the tournament. He would get Strawberry Mansion or somebody like that early in the tournament. And I remember the one year going to the Geigel complex thinking like that Trinity team was really good by District 3 standards, and covering that game. And Straw Mansion was like hitting shots from 3/4 court with like regularity. And it was a complete no contest. They come back the next year and play at the arena, at the old Hershey Park Arena, and Trinity ran him off the floor. So, I mean, he adjusted to that, but he was getting them early in the schedule. And now it's at the back end of the tournament. And honestly, I think that might be a good thing for them, because
they're ramping up. Yeah.
Yes. The team we saw a week ago against Mohawk, I thought maybe they would win that game. I didn't think I would see 30 points from Marcus Yeager and him like assert himself. We knew that the length was going to be an issue for Mohawk, but I did not see that level of Trinity team showing up that night to do what they did in that game.
Yeah, and I think a sneaky important guy. He doesn't score very often. He's not the flashiest player in the world, but Nicholas Smith on their team.
Yes.
He's a really long defender, and he is so good he's so on with his rotations. He's just really disruptive. He's one of those glue guys that you need to have to get this far at this point in the season, and you just see him all over the court defensively. And he was all over it again. I don't even think he might have scored 2 points against Guilfoyle, but they just have a lot of guys like that, and they're similar to Central Dauphin in some ways, which is like, it's not going to be Andre Steele every single night. It could be Marcus Yeager. It could be Nike Craig. They have a lot of different guys that can come at you, and that makes an offense harder to stop when it's not like you're not just keying in on people. And Larry said, he talked to Marcus Yeager. He gave me that Marcus Yeager, who's coming off a football semifinal, state semifinal appearance with the Trinity Shamrocks. He said Jaeger came up to him and said, "There's only one game I haven't played in my entire high school career. That's a state championship game." And so they'll be able to do that. It's their first one since Chance Westry put up 40 in a loss in 2019.
Almost won the game.
Yep,
Yep.
and they haven't won since 2003, despite I believe being up there with the most wins of any team in PI state history. So it's been a while since Trinity's brought home state title. They are going to have their hands filled though, because this West Catholic team is really good.
Kingston Wheatley is going to Florida Gulf Coast, I think it is,
Yeah.
and he's been a problem. I've been reading about him all day, and haven't had a chance to watch much of this team. I'll watch a little bit of them tomorrow night when we're done. But very balanced across this West Catholic team. They were in the game, I think, last year. As a matter of fact, they made it, and I remember them just being kind of like long and not looking like a 3A team. And they, to their credit, have played some of the better teams in the Catholic League really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, beat St. Joe's Prep early. St. Joe's Prep was a favorite last year. I know they've fallen off this year, but they are not your traditional we all know the Catholic League's not your traditional 6A, 4A. I mean, it's balanced across the board. Even your worst team probably comes up here, and I'm in Harrisburg now, so I can say up here, probably comes up here and wins the Mid-Penn. So if we're being honest. But this is going to be by far their toughest test, and this is why Larry goes out and schedules the teams in Maryland and tries to front load that schedule.
That is exactly what he brought up on I can't even keep track of what day of the week it is anymore at this time of year, but on Tuesday night, he cited, this is why we play Bishop Guilfoyle earlier in the year. This is why we go out of state, and he made sure he's like, everyone keeps writing our record. We actually have 2 more wins because they played out of state twice. They do, for all the complaining about Catholic school, the recruiting, that, and everything. I mean, they do play a really tough schedule when they have, and even their division. I think a lot of times the Mid-Penn Capital in particular kind of is treated as sort of like an also ran division. They had 2 other state qualifying teams, including Bishop McDevitt and Big Spring, who are a class above them, and they beat Bishop McDevitt. They split both of those games with them. They probably should have won at least 3 of the 4 of them. But yeah, they play a really tough schedule. Now, I'm not sure I don't know if they've played a team quite as good as West Catholic though.
Let's switch gears and go to the other game that you'll have for your coverage area, and that's the Central Dauphin Rams. I made the joke last night when we were doing the Oakland Catholic Blackhawk girls semi out in Pittsburgh. I said, only one of us at the table is a Central Dauphin grad. Well, only one of us on this chat is a Central Dauphin grad. Hi, guys. And Bob's going to have the call of that game with Rich Scarcella to close out the season on Saturday night, so I'll hand it off to him. But just some initial thoughts on that matchup and what you expect to see from both those teams on Saturday night.
Well, from what I have been able to see, and that's, I mean, I heard a lot because I'm in Berks, and I heard a lot from a lot of the teams about Central Dauphin and how good they were, how long they were. They're going to be a tough out from the District 3 standpoint. And then I got a chance to see some of their game the other night in the semifinal, and I could see what everybody's talking about. They're long and they're extremely athletic, and as long as they are, for the most part, 1 through 5, they are all 1 through 5. They've got size, but at the same time, a lot of that size has guard skills. So they are really, really athletic, and they're going up against a team in Imhotep that's very much the same way. Long, lean, athletic. This is most definitely, even though Imhotep is a small school, we all know it's a little bit different. This is definitely going to be 6A basketball. There's going to be a lot of size, a lot of athleticism, but you're going to see 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'8", getting up and down the floor.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh yeah, I mean, Bob nailed it. Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that stands out. Like whenever you look at the Central Dauphin team, is you look at a guy like Shakur Starling, and when I first saw him, before I saw him play, I was like, oh, they've got a new forward. And I think when I read our preseason survey, he's listed as a guard. You watch him, oh yeah, he's definitely a guard. And I mean, they have had all of these guys just be able to, like you said, shift 1 through 5 kind of at will, depending on what they need, depending on who's hot, which I think is also a big thing that they do. Jelani Easter can, play down in the dunker spot, or he can bring up the ball. And that's rare at the high school level to be able to do that. But I think what has kind of really unlocked kind of what there have been two kind of keys to them taking the next level. I think the first thing has been Khalil Roberts, who has gone from I've been calling him a glue guy all year, but I don't think you can really call him that anymore. I think he's just one of their standouts at this point. He plays a lot. He plays kind of like their four. He's so strong defensively. He's like a four, but he also picks up full court, can hit threes, and just does a little bit of everything for the team. And then adding Jared D'Olimpio, who played in Cumberland Valley last year, I think was kind of what put them over the edge for this team. Because, obviously they lose Wayne Fletcher, who's now at Navy. And so they needed to find a way to replace that guard while having the internal development and having Shaheen Starling enter the program. He's been really good defensively for them. But D'Olimpio is just this guy. It feels like throughout his career, even at Cumberland Valley, he always had this knack for hitting shots at the right moment. Like, last year he had funny enough, last year Jared D'Olimpio had a buzzer-beating three-pointer against Central Dauphin that probably it might have been the difference in winning or losing the Mid-Penn Commonwealth, actually. And but he has been such a big difference because while all those other guys can handle the ball and can kind of play that primary point guard position, D'Olimpio has a little bit more wiggle than all those guys. He's just more, I think he's the one that, is going to be that pure kind of two guard at the next level. And he's fit in seamlessly because he came in kind of maybe 5-10 games in the season and he didn't disrupt anything. It wasn't like he came in and demanded the ball 20 times. It's just a really selfless group. You can tell Seth Leonard loves coaching these guys. And yeah, I didn't know if they were going to make it to the state finals because you saw that Archbishop Wood team lurking. But once that shadow and that Coatesville shadow got out of the way, I really thought that there was nothing standing in their way other than, kind of a 50-50 game going against them.
And here's one more thing to add to all this. Both teams start one senior.
Yeah. That's what we were just talking about in our meeting today. It was like, we were talking about all the storylines for the game. We're like, well, this Central Dauphin team, it's not usually when you get the Mid-Penn teams in the state championship games, it's usually a lot of seniors that kind of have to, especially at the 6A level, if you're going to kind of work your way through that 6A bracket, you usually need a lot of experience, right? And to their credit, Shakur Starling got a lot of experience last year. So did Khalil Roberts, and D'Olimpio's played a lot of big games as well. But you're right. The Jelani Easter and Jackson Davenport are the two seniors that really contribute to their team. They're pretty young, and so is Imhotep.
Yeah, Imhotep's got Latif Lorenzano White is the lone senior. Zahir Muhammad Gray lost last season, his sophomore year, to a knee injury. And even without him, look, we can talk all we want about kids changing schools. It's just part of the landscape. I just don't delve that much into it. But Imhotep has lost a couple of players from it. Andre Nebel won't talk about it. The kids have transferred in, they've transferred out. So you end up dealing with what you deal with. But Zahir Muhammad Gray lost last year to a knee injury. He didn't waste his time. He went from he's 6'8". He went from 6'8", 195 to 6'8", 235. Mm-hmm. So he's packing 40 more pounds of muscle on his body since last year, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Because again, when we're talking about CD, long and lean and athletic. Muhammad Gray is long and lean, and he's not so lean anymore. He can be a physical presence, but he's also a really good passer, and so that'll be interesting. You don't get to see enough of guys passing from the high post, but that's what they'll do. They put him in high post a lot, and he finds people, and so it's very interesting. Ian Smith, a really good defensive player. In addition to being a 10th grader who gives them a lot. They're a very balanced team. I just think these two teams have a lot of similarities in terms of they're very balanced. And again, getting back to what we started this conversation with how long and lean and athletic they are. I think this on paper is a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are going to defer to Imhotep being Imhotep, and I don't blame them at all. But if you look at Central Dauphin's results this year, they played Bonner incredibly tough this year. Took them to overtime. Obviously, Bonner's a 5A school, but Bonner's beat Roman Catholic. Bonner's beat Father Judge. And Central Dolphins also beat Central York twice, who took Father Judge to overtime in the state playoffs. Um, you don't that transitive property stuff doesn't always work, but I think there's enough proof there that shows you can't just write off Central Dauphin because they're not a Philly a Philly area District 12 team and Imhotep is. I think there's enough kind of overlap of opponents and things like that where I think that this is going to be a matchup that Central Dauphin is going to really come out swinging and have a legitimate chance to win this game because like you keep mentioning, it's not like this is just some hunky dory group. This is a group of athletes who know how to play basketball, know how to play team basketball, and have really, I think, been playing their best basketball in the state playoffs because that Upper St. Clair team is really good. That's a really good Upper St. Clair team.
Yeah, they beat two very different type of teams in Newcastle and Upper St. Clair. Newcastle is guard oriented to get up and down the floor and going to press and trap you, and they handled that. And then you go up against Upper St. Clair with Ryan Robbins, who's a future Division I offensive lineman. It gives you a completely different kind of task in which to challenge you. So they've offset both of those and taken care of business. One thing you got to throw it out there because it is a statistic that is absolutely worth talking about, and that's Andre Noble is 10-0 in state championship game.
Yeah,
I mean I don't know that you can throw any kind of numbers out that you want about how big they are, how fast they are. 10-0 in state championship games.
He's looking for 6A. Is he looking for 6A number one? Is this?
Yes, he's won this. They would have if they win this, he will have won in 5 of the 6 classifications.
Yeah, so that's crazy. That's
going back to 09, they won it 3 times at 2A, they won it at 3A, they won a couple at 4A, they won 3 in a row at 5A, and so now they're looking for their first ever 6A. So they will have won in 5 of the 6.
Yeah, if they win this year, I petition just 1 year, let them play 1A so he can hit for the cycle.
Go the Kennedy Catholic route, reverse Kennedy Catholic.
Yeah, there we go.
What's give me like I think you mentioned him with Nick Smith with Trinity, Dan, but give me an X factor for both sides. Like somebody maybe we didn't really talk a deep amount about that could decide the game for the local team in your area. So Trinity, Central Dauphin, like a guy that might decide it for those two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Jelani Easter because he's a kid that I thought last year, playing as kind of the number 2 to Wayne Fletcher, really had these games where he looked like he was like a Division I level basketball player who was going to kind of really emerge this year as a 20, 25 point per game scorer. He was voted the preseason Mid-Penn Commonwealth Player of the Year by the coaches, and instead of doing that, he has really just been a completely selfless play. Like he didn't look at this opportunity of Wayne Fletcher graduating and saying, "Oh, now all of his shots are mine." He instead kind of continued to operate in a role that best suited the team. And there have been some games where he kind of, you don't see him as much, but there are games like in the Newcastle game, I thought he really impacted the game on both sides. He's a really good rim protector, had a bunch of key blocks in that game. I think that he's a guy that still hasn't kind of had his marquee game of the year when his shot just completely locks in. And, I've always thought he's had 30-point games in the past. I don't think he scored 30 this year. I don't think he'll score. I don't know if anyone's going to score 30 in this game, but I just think he's a guy that they're going to need. I think he's probably their tallest player and their longest player. And he's their senior. I think that he's going to need to have an impactful game for them to win.
Yeah, I think those are pretty good picks. You'll be there for all 12. Are you guys doing anything special with your coverage on over the weekend? Like anything Penn Live? Tell everybody where they can follow you. Tell everybody who they can follow and where they can read everything afterwards.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be at least covering all because we've also got West York in the championship game. That's District 3 and Dallastown girls as well. So we'll be trying to cover as much as we can. Me, Eric Epler, Rymir Vaughn, Evan Weed, and all of our Twitters. Dan_Sostek. Also had some other District 3 news today that from my opinion, one of the best coaches in the entire state,
Yeah.
Paul Blackburn, decided to retire after 35 years. So we've been covering that. He was just in this game last year. I don't think you could find anybody in the entire state to say a bad word about Paul Blackburn. So, yeah, covering that story as well. But yeah, a lot of basketball this weekend.
And beat West York to get to the
Yeah,
semis last year.
West
which is
York
kind of
actually told us that they had a drill all offseason called the Hershey drill. They lost to Hershey both in districts and states last year, and then ended up being in districts this year.
What do you think, before we let you go, what do you think about the crowd this week? Because a lot of people, I think it helps that the locals are going to be in the Giant Center area. You got 4 teams: Dallastown, West York, Central Dauphin, and Trinity. Trinity usually brings a pretty good crowd to the Giant Center. It's not going to sell out.
No.
I'm going to be really curious about what the Rams bring, because it's a 10-minute drive from the school.
Yeah, like
Is there enough juice? Because the last time they were in the football state championship, they didn't fill Hershey Park Stadium, and it's the same. It's the same distance. So that, to me, might be a little
Yeah.
interesting to see what that night crowd's like on Saturday.
I'm interested too, because they've had good crowds at these games, but they haven't been huge crowds, and I think it's because it's been Johnstown and Altoona, and you kind of wonder if all that excitement now is building up. This is their first ever state title game, right? It's you have to think with Giant Center right in the backyard. They'd have I don't know if they'll get quite as big a crowd as the Hershey did last year. But I've seen kind of the reaction on Facebook, like our video at the end of the game is getting 700 likes or whatever. Like, people are excited, and it's also a Saturday night, which I think helps too. That it's
Yeah.
it's there's nothing really kind of blocking you from going to see this game again. I think the question always remains kind of what these out of town teams are going to bring, and you get a little nervous when you see the District 3 tournament. They do we're not having it this year, but we'll have it next year. But you always worry from if how many more years we're going to get to have the Giant Center for these games. But and every time you don't fill it up, it gets you a little more nervous. But I think it's great. I mean, the kids are always it means something to a lot of the kids, and hopefully they fill it up.
All righty, sir. We appreciate you coming on once again, and we'll talk to you. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you there.
All right, Dan Sostek from PennLive.com. Make sure you check him out on Twitter. Our next guest that we're going to bring in is Brad Everett from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We got a lot to talk about with Brad in a short amount of time to do it. Sir, thanks for coming on once again. And you've got a busy weekend. You got 7 teams on both the boys and girls side that are going to be patrolling the Giant Center court this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. Specifically, we have 4 games on Thursday. So, and yeah, looking forward to, hopefully the Whippeal does pretty good. I mean, last year we only had, a handful of champions. I think 2 or 3 champions last year, only 1 on the boys side. So looking forward, hopefully we have a little bit more success from our area, not only from the Whippeal, but from the City League, of course, with Obama playing as well.
Is that the story of the teams? I tend to think that as far as the WPIL teams that are going to be there, in order of quote story, Obama's number 1, I think, without question. 2 to me is Oakland Catholic, because it's been a long time since that powerhouse has been in this game.
Yeah, I would definitely say Obama is the biggest story. I mean, no one would have thought that they would have been in this game. I mean, Alderdice was the number 1 team in the City League the whole season. And then all of a sudden Obama dethrones them. They knock off the 4-time defending champs. And I didn't think they would get past Cathedral Prep. I mean, Cathedral Prep was just blowing teams out, averaging over 90 a game. And then Obama beats them. They beat Deer Lakes. They get past the semifinal. And now all of a sudden they're in the championship game. And, a City League team hasn't won a title in a long time, since the great Shenley team with DeJuan Blair and DJ Kennedy and DeAndre Kane. And I think they have a good shot to win this game here come tomorrow night. We'll see.
What about Neighborhood Academy too? You're going to see them. You have back-to-back games tomorrow. Neshannock girls play first, and then Neighborhood boys are second. And what Jordan Marks has done there, their best player, Courtney Wallace, is at Yale. They just played for a Ivy League title last Sunday. Fell short to Penn, one of the best championship week tournament games there was. But Jordan Marks and what he's done and put this program together is, I was there 3 years ago doing a WPIL playoff game and covering that game for your rival paper. about where they kind of were, and they get to the championship game and they don't win it. But he knew something was there. And then last year, the breakthrough and the response from the people in Erie the night they won that semifinal game, and what he's been able to do these last 2 years is completely remarkable.
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, they've only been competing in the WPIAL since 2020, I think 2020, 2021. So, and I mean, it's just been this like meteoric rise here over the past couple of years. Jordan's done a tremendous job. Came over from Winchester Thurston, and the thing about neighborhood is a lot of people will point to, of course, like their academy, they're a private school, so obviously they have to be out there recruiting and stuff, but that's not the case there. I mean, like just about all those kids have been there since since middle school.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's not really a thing over there. Like they brought in a few guys. I know, Trey McMurray was a guy that came in this year. Julius Page Jr., although he's out for the season, he came over from Char Valley. But for the most part, those are homegrown kids over there, and credit to them for getting back, because that loss of Courtney Wallace, that was a pretty big one. They lost Shamar Simpson that hit a big three in the championship game last year. That was a great senior class, and they've been able to bounce back. Great year from Kadron Gilmore, and senior on that team, Derek Hardiman, who, and I mean, that's another thing about neighborhood. They have some really smart kids. Jordan told me Derek Hardiman, the only senior, he's down, like he's not going to play basketball probably in college, but he's down academically between Carnegie Mellon, MIT, and Duke. So, that's pretty good stuff. Like a little bit better, than what I was choosing between when I was going to,
I don't think I could spell those schools back when I was picking a college. Holy cow.
I know.
That's impressive. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I'm just, I was going to ask a little bit more about Obama Academy, because I'm hearing a lot of the same kind of things. I've got a chance to reach out with Deron Jackson, their head coach, and he's talking a lot about the same type of stuff, that these kids are all smart kids. His son, Deron, is a 4.4 great student. He said that the grade point average for the basketball team is 3.6. It's great. It's just good to hear that. I mean, first of all, I'm glad when somebody throws that out at me when I'm asking for stats. Sometimes I just like scoring averages, but you really give me a grade point average and throw that in there. That I'm more than happy to mix that in on the subject as well.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, like that's more impressive than what they actually do on the court. I mean, like that's really good stuff. I really like this Obama team. They play really hard. I mean, every time I've seen them, I mean, they're the team that plays the hardest on that court every night. They really get after it defensively. They have some pretty good length. Sheik Long is about a 6'5" guy. They have another guy, Zion Connor, that's about 6'5",
6'6", right?
But I mean, it's the backcourt that really drives them. Great year from Deron Jackson the second, but it was really the addition of Eric James, which has really taken this team over the top. Well-traveled player, started off at North Hills. He's been around the block a little bit. Started this season at a school in Kentucky and ends up at Obama and joined them at the beginning of January. And his impact has just been immense. I mean, I think he's probably the strongest guard among anybody in Western Pennsylvania. He's a big, strong kid, and he uses that power to get to the basket and get to the foul line. He's hit some big shots, in these PIAA playoffs, including the winner in the semifinals. He's just a really fun player to watch, and I just love this. I just love this Obama team. And what's cool too is just the connection between Obama and Old Shenley High School. And a lot of these kids would have went to Shenley if Shenley would have still been around. And Shenley, we know about their history and all the state titles over the years, going back to the 70s. And one of those teams, the 76 team, had a guy on the team by the name of Roosevelt Jackson. And he was the sixth man on the 1976 team that won a state title. Well, that's the father of Deron Jackson, who reached the PIAA quarterfinals a couple times. His team lost in 96, I think it was, in the quarterfinals. If they would have won that game in the semifinals, they would have played Kobe Bryant and Lower Merion in the championship game. So that would have been pretty cool. Now, fast forward to now, and now Deron Jackson II is here, and he has a chance to do what his grandpap did 51 years ago and win a state championship. So just a great story all the way around.
Brad, was there a chance that school was going to close at some point? I vaguely remember a story maybe like 5-6 years ago that the school might have been in trouble somewhere. Was that the case back then? And if so, what happened to keep them going?
I can't speak on that exactly. I
Okay.
mean, like being a city league school, I mean, a lot of those schools have been, in flux, over the years and, struggled, like I'm sure like financially. I don't know about them specifically, but I mean, it's, like it's obviously a shame what's happened to the city league and, like we're just down to so few teams, like 6 teams, I think it is right now. And I think that even adds to this story, like this little small league, like, District 8. I don't believe there's any district even anywhere close to as small as District 8 is. But and Obama, they had to win a play-in game just to even get into the tournament. So I mean, like the odds were definitely stacked against them, but they were able to overcome them.
Let's talk a little bit about. We'll get to the two girls games in a second. Swickley's going to have a target on their back again, and didn't get it done last year against Linville Hill. And this year, it's a really kind of peppy Old Forge team that just knocked off the last undefeated team in the state of Pennsylvania. I know Bob's a little bit upset about that because he wanted to talk a lot of United this weekend, but and I'm actually kind of upset a little bit too because Matt Rockey's great and like he's been so good to me the last couple of weeks. I was kind of hoping they kind of write that story, but Swickley, what do we feel about them? And we didn't get the Jeanette matchup that we were all going to buildings and lighting candles that we'd hope we'd see.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the local teams on the boys' side, I think Sewickley has the best chance to win a championship, and I think they will win that game. They've just been absolutely dominant this season. And the big guys inside with Mama Duquesne and Adam Makamba, their backcourt's pretty underrated. Drew Stills, I saw them in the PIAA quarterfinals, a game that they were tested big time. McConnellsburg, who I figured Sewickley would win that game big. And the next thing I know, McConnellsburg has the lead against Sewickley in the fourth quarter, which I think stunned everybody. Obviously Sewickley rallied. I think they outscored them like 20-5 in the fourth quarter. But I think, in some ways, I think that was probably good for Sewickley. I mean, they were able to get into a game where they were actually fighting, for a win in the fourth quarter. Because outside of like their loss to Roselle Catholic and they had a win against Pine Richland down at PPG Page Arena back in December. And they were given a fight in that game. But other than that, I mean, they've just been blowing out teams by like 30, 40, 50 points a game. So, that probably is going to serve them pretty well. But I know they're fired up to get a chance here to do it again. I talked to Coach Mike Isolino last night, and he thinks that, they will really draw off that experience from last season. They've played so many postseason games, like a lot of these teams that are still alive right now. They've played so many postseason games the last 2 years. They've gotten that experience, especially having young players like Mama Duquesne as a sophomore, Drew Stills as a sophomore. But I think that length that they have, I mean, there's just that type of length that compares to some of the Philly teams. And, you don't see that very often around Western Pennsylvania, but Sewickley definitely has it.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, this Old Forge team is a really good 2A basketball team. And for a 2A team, they've got pretty good size. Logan Fanning, 6'6", averaging 16 plus a game. They have a couple other 6'2", 6'1" players in there. Cameron Parker dropped 36 in the semifinal against United. In the playoffs, in the PIAA playoffs, he's averaged almost 25 a game. So they can score. They're a good AA team. But what they're going up against is not a AA team in terms of their ability, in terms of their size, more than anything. I mean, this Sewickley Academy team is running 6'8", 6'8", 6'5" out there. That's you're not going to see that in a whole lot of AA schools. And even to Brad's point about the Philly schools, you're not seeing that at the AA level in Philly either. Lucas Grimsley's a really good player. He's 1,000-point scorer at 6'5". And at most AA schools, he's playing with his back to the basket. They list him as a guard. I mean, this is a different level team in terms of its size. But Old Forge is taking care of business every night, and they've done it pretty comfortably in every team that's been in front of them along the way. And they had a nice run themselves last year. I mean, they got to the quarterfinals. They lost to Linville Hill, who ended up winning the state championship. So
yeah,
I mean, they had a good run a year ago as well.
Yeah, and that was the same Linville Hill team, that beat Sewickley Academy there in the championship game. Sewickley so close to winning that game. Yeah, like Mama Duquesne had a shot at the very end to try to put Sewickley ahead, and it didn't fall. But and I'm sure Old Forge is very good. Have they seen anything defensively like Sewickley Academy is going to bring them? I mean, they give up 30 points a game, which is like pretty staggering. And they've played some good competition out there. Like they beat Obama and Neighborhood Academy, both of the teams that are also representing the West here in the championships. So I mean that, like you can't simulate a lot of that stuff that Sewickley Academy is going to bring to the table. Like you could try whatever you want in practice. You can break down the film, but until you actually see it in person. I know I was at the McConnellsburg game up at Pitt Johnstown on Saturday, and a few of the McConnellsburg players were talking on the court as Sewickley Academy ran off of the court in pregame warmups. And one of the McConnellsburg players was like, "Oh man, those guys are big," and like one of his teammates was like trying to shoot him down a little bit. "Oh man, he's not that big. He's not that big. Don't worry about it." But yeah, that is going to be an interesting matchup. But I like Sewickley with that size and that defense.
Old Forge has to make shots. I mean, there's only one way they can win this game, and they've got to make shots and they can. I mean, they've got three of their starters, I should say, have over 33s on the year. They've got to make shots. They got to knock down threes because with the size that Sewickley has, they're not getting anything inside, and they're not going to get a whole lot of second and third shot opportunities. So the Old Forge has to make shots.
And hopefully totally bring some pizza down with them too.
Well,
yeah.
Brad, I got to ask you, the three girls teams that are there this weekend, the Shannock's got Luann Grabowski with 801 wins. She's trying to get a second state title with the Lancers. You've got South Fayette, kind of feels like a coronation moment for them, but they're going to run into a really an Archbishop Wood team that's playing some of their best basketball. And then I think really what might be, and I mean this, like I think this might be the best girls game of the weekend, Newman Goretti and Oakland Catholic. That Oakland Catholic game last night with Blackhawk was off the charts awesome. And I mean, they went back and forth all night long, and Hupp and Fontana and the guards, and there was drama, and there was a technical foul, and there's coaches calling timeouts, and there's 12-0 runs, and like just everything. That game had everything. For a 45-44 game, it literally had everything. Some thoughts on the girls' side. What storylines are you watching with the girls' games? Obviously, Neshannock, when they kick it off tomorrow, they've got to go through the defending champ, and that Berlin Brothers Valley team is really, really talented.
Yeah, they're a super talented team. Actually coached by Gavin Prosser, who's a Brentwood guy. And I mean, they've been a power in recent years. His daughters have been, the star players on that team. And how good are they? Well, they beat Oakland Catholic by 10 points in the early season. So I mean, they can legit play. Talking to Luann after the semifinal game, we didn't know who they were going to play yet because that was one of those games that was postponed until Tuesday. And I think Luann had a pretty good feeling it was going to, it was probably going to be Berlin, and it was. And, I definitely probably would put Berlin as the favorite in that game, but definitely can't count out Neshannock. And, as James would say too, man, that semifinal game, what they were able to do, that comeback, I mean, to lose Peyton Newman, she means so much to that team, and to lose her and you're down by 8 points in the third quarter, it looked like that game was going to snowball away from them. And the next thing you know, they fought right back. I mean, like some of those role players stepped up off the bench. They have a great bench on that team. And that was super impressive. I think South Fayette's a great story. I think they're one of the better teams to come out of Western PA in the last 20 years. I mean, like considering the talent that they have, I mean, 5 Division I players, they're in the starting 5. They have a nice bench. They have some great players coming up. Actually, they have a girl named Chloe Lane. The granddaughter of Jerome Lane is in 8th grade. She's going to be coming up next year. So they have quite a bit of talent. But that senior class led by Juju LaRue and Haley Lamond and of course Ryan Oldeker as well. They went up there and beat Archbishop Wood last year. I think Archbishop Wood was better last year. Their top player was clearly Ryan Carter, who was a freshman on that team, I believe, like one of the most one of the most sought after players in the country in her class. But she transferred out; she's no longer there. So that's one girl that South Fayette won't have to worry about. I don't know who Archbishop Wood has brought in since. I mean, like maybe they brought in another player or two, but I like South Fayette in that game, and to win back to back at that level is just big time. But yeah, credit to Brian Bennett and the job he's done there, and they are just a machine. And I agree with you. I think that Oakland Catholic game against Goretti, man, like get your popcorn ready for that one because that's going to be a clash. Oakland Catholic, like they lose London Creech from that team from last year. Josie Fontana has been incredible this year. She has just really stepped up. I thought she was really good last year, but she has really taken over as the lead player on that team. She wants the ball. She wants to score. And she's a pretty big time kid. And one of two actually Richmond recruits that hail from the Whitfield to be playing in this championship game. Of course, also Erica Gribble, from Greensburg Central will be headed to Richmond as well. And Oakland Catholic coach Henry Schechter won a state championship in Virginia a couple years ago. Now he has a chance to win one in Pennsylvania.
Near Richmond, ironically enough, near Richmond. That Henry
really?
James,
Okay, yeah.
that James River or whatever the name of the school is, Henry James, is right outside of Richmond. Richmond is like basically taking over the state of Pennsylvania. And that, if you have not seen that women's team, might be a little tough in the tournament because of their draw. But if you have not watched that women's team, all of these girls, I think there's 4 of them from the state of Pennsylvania total that are going there. All 4 are going to be problems for the rest of that league when they get there because they're all top level. And that Richmond women's team, I was there at a game last season, and I was floored by how good they are. I mean, they are so well coached, and they're coming in here like and cherry picking these players out of Pennsylvania, and it's amazing. And Fontana last night, the thing about her, and we said this during the game too, she scored a lot late in the game, but it was her vision and the passing and defense, and then trying to lock down on Aubrey Hupp at the end of the game. And just like all the things that you're not going to put in a box score that she does, we really saw a complete performance from her last night. And I think that I just think that game on Saturday to kick it off for the final day of the basketball season is going to be insanely great.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one more thing on the 4A, you got to feel for Blackhawk a little bit, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, they have just been, like Oakland Catholic's just been a thorn in their side, and they've come so close to beating them like so many times here the last couple of years. And Oakland Catholic just always finds a way to pull it out. And, Blackhawk, of course, great player in Aubrey Hupp. She had an outstanding career, and it would have been kind of cool to see her kind of finish up on top. But, they did win a state title, I think, when she was a sophomore. So, at least she did get a nice taste of this Hershey experience up here.
Sir, tell everybody where they can read you, and we'll look for you tomorrow.
I'll be at the games all weekend. Me and my guy Ken Mrazek, and also Keith Barnes will be up here from the PG. Good. And you can follow me on Twitter at BReal412, and you can check out all of our work in the Post Gazette.
All right, Brad Everett, thank you very much, sir. We'll see you along press row tomorrow.
Sounds good, Eric. All right, guys, thanks for having me.
Yep, that's Brad Everett from the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. He's got a busy weekend. Also a busy weekend coming up for York County, because York County is going to have 2 teams in the state finals, and it's going to be how Dallastown got to this thing. We'll talk a little bit about it here in a second. But Jack Leckler does a great job covering the York teams for the York Daily Record, and we are going to be joined by him momentarily here as Brad steps off, and hopefully Jack is still hanging in there. We'll get him on to talk about West York. West York takes on Bonner Prendergast, and Dallastown, the girls will take on who am I missing here that they take on?
For Dublin.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, that'll be an interesting game too. The West York Bonner game, I'm kind of deep into preparing for that one right now. That's going to be an interesting contest, and I'm going to be really curious to see how this West York team has evolved from a season ago to now when they ran into Hershey. And then that Hershey team last year lost a lot to graduation this year. West York kind of assumed the role, the top dog in 5A for District 3. Bob, while we get Jack on here, we get him warmed up. What's your overall assessment on District 3 real quick? Like, was it up, down this year? What's your take on that?
That's a great question. I'd kind of say, it sounds like a cop-out, but it's pretty much, I think it's kind of down the middle of the road. It's hard to say that. You got Trinity's in the state final, Central Dauphin's in the state final, West York's in the state final, Dallastown girls in the state final, but I don't know that it was as deep and maybe I don't think the talent pool has been is as good as it has been over the last couple of years. Because I think over the last 5 or 6 years, it can stack up with some of the best runs that District 3 has had over the course of the time. And obviously District 3 has had a lot of success over the course of time. But the last several years, it's done really, really well. And it's done it at a couple of different levels. And so I think that's what makes it not the same this year. I just don't think there was as many teams that had the run. I mean, at the end, you got teams standing at the top, which is great. But I don't think you had as many teams make as deep as a run as you have had in the past.
Right. Jack Gleckler is going to join us now from the York Daily Record. Jack, pleasure to have you with us here tonight. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes. I know you're tied up with some West York stuff. Boy, what a win over Char Valley last night. That was that video, the last play of the game's gone viral. Everybody's got an opinion on it, and that was a heck of a way to get to their first ever state championship.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, watching that game in person, you can get a bit of it from that video, but just the wire-to-wire competitiveness between West York and Char Valley was just phenomenal. West York is a team that's really been known around District 3 for its defense, for its ability to really kind of choke the life out of its opponents. But I think Monday or Tuesday was one of those days where they kind of met their match and kind of had to figure out, are we going to bend or are we going to break? And, West York's roster, as young as it is, they only have 4 seniors that really see a lot of playing time out of a varsity roster of about 14 guys. They're guys that will dig in when necessary and just have that chemistry as a team to really kind of lock in, feed the ball to the right guy, and just muscle out a win where necessary. I mean, West York, to go on your point you were talking about earlier, West York last year, the PIAA quarterfinals in 5A, that was the farthest they had ever been as a program last year, and they lost to Hershey, and it really stung them. I was talking with head coach Garrett Bull a couple times, and, he said that Hershey has kind of been, was kind of the moment that forged them as a team. They have a drill they run in practice that they call the Hershey drill, one that really has kind of prepared them for these tough games. And they knew coming into the season, we are going to try and make a deep run. And I think that mentality from Bull and his coaching staff really just bled down into the players. You see it from this team, just the ability to work together and the unselfishness from a squad that really isn't senior heavy at all. It's kind of a rare thing to see, but one that's arguably very necessary for a state finalist. I mean, as is evident.
Garrett Bull was a junior high and a JV coach before he got the job at West York. And he's talked about in the past about how this was the first job that he applied for. And he teaches at Red Lions, so he's at a rival school, so to speak. Mm-hmm. What's he been like through this whole run here? Because this is new to him, but this is also a guy that has stuck with it through the lower ranks, junior high, JV, now varsity. And he's kind of been building himself up and preparing himself for this type of moment.
Garrett Bull is such an interesting coach because, he's such a, when you talk to him, he's very rare to take praise for himself. He'll always pass it on to his players. He always says, I'm proud of my guys. My guys have taken it this far. My coaching staff has always been, behind me, willing to do what I ask of them and everything. And the thing about Garrett Bull, I think what sets him apart from a lot of coaches around District 3 and, around the state is just he has such a great tactical mind. And I think, working through a JV middle school coaching position really kind of forced him to kind of give that identity, really find his coaching identity, find what works for him. He's able to really read opposing teams, read their tape, find weaknesses, and come up with a game plan that is rock solid. He's just a great tactical mind and can draw up any play that is necessary in that exact moment. Just a guy with essentially a utility belt almost.
Let's shift a little gears here. I know your focus has been on the West York side of it too. Bob's going to have the 6A girls game with Upper Dublin in Dallastown, and saw Dallastown earlier this season. Give us a little sense for the mood with the Dallastown team and kind of what the community's been like around there.
Absolutely. I mean, Dallastown, the Dallastown girls team is a team that's always they're used to success at the district level. Before this year, longtime head coach Jay Rexroth, he really built up a program, got them used to success, and just the talent that kind of comes out of one of those bigger schools. They've been able to, they were able to handle it and evolve into a team that has seen routine success in postseason. And coming into this year, new head coach Molly Day, she steps in without missing a beat. Takes a roster that lost one of its star players to graduation, and without missing a beat, just takes it and evolves it into a team that goes from success at the district level to a team to, if I'm remembering correctly, from what our lead girls basketball reporter Shelly Stallsmith told me, it was Dallastown girls will be the first York County team to play for a or York County girls team, excuse me, to play for a state final at the highest classification. I think it's just, a team that is so used to success that under a first-year coach was willing to take that extra step to not only match last year's success, but go beyond and, pull out the extra muscle and take that leap to the highest echelon they could reach.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, I call we had the district final with Dallastown and Wilson, and it was just a great game, just a really good X's and O's games with two young coaches. Molly Day is, as Jack said, first-year head coach. Matt Rickay technically is a young coach. He's only in his second season at Wilson, but he was an assistant coach at Holy Cross and some other places at the college level as well. And talking with him before the game, and I knew of Ava Jameson, and she's a 1,000-point scorer, and she was part of the team that made the run that Jack's talking about last year. And I figured that she's the key. And he's like, no. It's this freshman. And her name is Denilah Handy, and learn that name because she is something special. There is nothing about that young lady who is a ninth grader. Nothing about her is a ninth grader. She wants the ball. She'll take the shot. She'll handle the ball. She is the real deal. She is going to be special.
100%. I agree with that 100%. I mean, from what little I have seen of Denilah Handy, I'm blown away by just her skill set, her basketball IQ, and especially, you saw it last night. Handy comes in handy to lift Dallastown to the first to a state final. It's just a freshman that has an immediate impact is just it's amazing what this Dallastown team has been able to accomplish with the talent, young talent, returning talent, just all around, just a very well-balanced roster.
Now, having said all that, they are going up against a beast on Friday night. This Upper Dublin team is really, really good. You're talking about three players, 3,000-point scorers. Start with that. All three of whom are two of whom are already committed to Division One. Megan now is going to FDU. Amelia Coleman's going to LaSalle, and the other one is a junior, Tamia Clark. She's the leading scorer of the bunch. She's over 1,400 points, but obviously she's only a junior. Then add in a couple of Division One lacrosse players mixed into it. This team is really, really good.
Absolutely. Dallastown is going to absolutely have their work cut out for them. But the thing I've noticed, and the thing that, we've talked about routinely as we kind of going through the season is that, Dallastown just, again, hearkening back to last night, they just find ways to win, whether it's a low scoring game, whether they can go high scoring or anything, they just they can find a way to win. And again, I hearken back, give the credit to the players, but also just Coach Molly Day, taking this program and, giving them motivation to push on and just find ways to win. I think that's kind of the message for what Dallastown girls basketball is all about.
Jack, what do you have coming up as far as coverage for West York? Give everybody a sense where they can read your stuff, your Twitter handle, and what you got planned for win or lose for the state championship coverage.
Oh, absolutely. So this week I'll have a couple articles coming out just previewing the matchup against Bonner Prendergast. I'll have kind of a meet the team article talking about the roster that helped West York get to get to the first state final in program history. And then for game day at the Giants Center, I'll be running a live blog from the York Daily Record website. That's ydr.com. My Twitter handle is at the Jack Gleckler. That's GLECKLER. I'll be tweeting intermittently, but largely we'll be running the live blog, and we'll have a couple stories after the game is over. Working hard and hoping to get some good stories out of this week.
Jack, what's your background? You're relatively new to the area, correct?
I am. I'm originally I grew up in the Toledo, Ohio area.
See, that's where I was getting at, because I lived there briefly.
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I grew up in Oak Harbor, Ohio, if you know it.
Yep.
Graduated from Ohio University in 2022. Worked at a small paper in Chillicothe, Ohio for about 2 years. And then July 2024, moved out here to start working for the York Daily Record. Been covering it the past year and a half. It's been a great experience. Love the area. And the sports have been exciting. This is the first state final I've ever covered. So it's exciting.
You're in good hands with Shelley Stahlsmith. I worked with her at the Patriot News for a handful of years too. So you're in good hands with your partner there too. She's one of a kind, and make sure you guys hold on to her for a long, long time yet.
Absolutely. Shelley's wonderful.
All right. We'll see you in Hershey, my friend. Thanks for coming on. It'll be good to meet you there, and safe trip up, and look forward to talking to you a little bit before the game.
See you in Hershey. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Jack Leckler from the York Daily Record. Let's just keep it to the three of us here and spitball a little bit to close this thing out. So, James, we were kind of talking a little bit about the the Neshannock game earlier. Just your thoughts on, we put together this network for a statewide audience, but there's something to be said about local coverage for games and local radio doing things. Bob, obviously you do that with WEEU and Reading. That's a huge part of who you've been and who you are and who you will continue to be. There's something to be said, though, about getting to do the local teams. And James, obviously with the Lawrence County Sports Network, our guys have a chance to do that tomorrow, and that'll be a pretty special afternoon for them.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And especially when, you have a small group like we are. I mean, we cover Lawrence County that has 8 schools in the county. And we've just been blessed with some incredible teams, but it takes incredible to be able to make these runs to a state championship. And, we don't take them for granted, though. Neshannock, especially in the last few years, on the girls' side especially, it's just been really, really incredible of, competitive spirit, state championships, 3 of the last 4 years of softball state champions, and now third time in the last 6 years making it to the Giants Center for the basketball team. So, we've been really lucky with that, but it's moments like this that bring communities together, and schools calling off for school, getting student buses out there, leaving at 6 a.m. to get out there for these Thursday noon games. Not easy to do, and I mean, we say it jokingly, but it really is going to feel like a great chunk of the Neshannock community is going to be making a trip out there tomorrow morning.
Because they have the furthest trip of anybody to make. What's the bus situation like for the students coming out?
I believe the official departure time is 7. I think. Don't quote.
I'm not even going to be
any
out of bed yet.
Who are listening? Yeah.
I'm still going to be working on stuff probably for tomorrow's game at that point. Who knows?
They should have left at 7:00 tonight, to be honest. But no, it's a long trip. A long time on a bus. And, I never got a chance to officially ask Coach G what the team is doing, because that's the other thing too. Is a lot of these schools, especially the ones from in our area, when you get to Lawrence, Mercer County, right on the Ohio border, need to be going the day early and getting out there, because there's just no way that you can try to make that in one day trip, especially when you're doing a game at noon on a Thursday. So
I have to put this in perspective for people who may not know this, but when I started working with you guys a couple years ago after moving out to Pittsburgh, and the first game I do is Mohawk. The first Mohawk game I do, I had no clue that I could pop right into Ohio and get gas cheaper than I could in Pennsylvania. It would only take me about 3 minutes from the high school to get there and do it.
And not just cheaper, you're talking 50 cents a gallon cheaper. Probably.
Yeah, it's like significantly cheaper. That's like my spot now. But
so
that'll be good for those guys to make that trip. Let's
give another tidbit, because 11 years ago yesterday was one of the greatest state semifinals in the history of
yes.
Pennsylvania. It featured, was it Was it Hickory Farrell?
And yeah, it played at Youngstown State.
Played in Ohio. So a state semifinal for Pennsylvania, played in Youngstown, Ohio.
That's right.
And it was sold out a day in advance. Like it was that crazy. So yeah, that's how close we are to the border. But you're gonna see a lot of red and white making their way in the stands in the Giant Center tomorrow.
Bob McCool, my long time colleague. We all have 4 games tomorrow. You, me, and Andrew Kalista will split 4 games over the next 3 days. And Christy Britton, the former Trinity coach, is going to handle our girls' games. Rich Scarcelli, your partner with WEU, is going to be our analyst on the boys' side. What are you most looking forward to this weekend? What game, player, anything?
Oh, there's a player. There's several players that I'm looking forward to, but it's I always look at the games because I don't want to. I try not to get too caught up in one particular player because you can ultimately end up getting yourself disappointed a little bit. But it's the games and the matchups and how people are going to respond to the stage. It's the stage, and it's that. I mean, you have teams that in an Imhotep who's been there and trying to go for number 11. And then you have the teams that we're talking about with the Obama academies. They've never been there before. And Old Forge, you know when the last time Old Forge won a state championship? It was even before me. 1932 was the last time they won. It was a 24-19 final score. So, like, that's the stuff. That's what it is. I guarantee you there'll be a mob of people from Old Forge. I guarantee you there will be. And that's what it's all about. Look, that's been a thorn in my side, is what's been missing a lot in high school sports is the students coming out to watch games. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen as much as it should.
Especially in football. Football's a lot. Yeah, football's a lot less now. Yeah.
It doesn't get the draw from the kids. And look, I know they're all busy and they're all doing stuff, but especially in these occasions when your teams are making this run, that's what I love to see it. I love to see it when the students are coming out and they're all getting into it. And for old people like us to have the grind to drive across the state to do a game in the middle of the week, it is a grind. But for the kids, it is the adventure of a lifetime. They're going to be talking about this at the 10-year class reunion, at the 20-year class reunion. Remember we piled in the bus and we had to drive 3 hours and go to Altoona, or we had to go 5 hours and drive to Hershey. That's what they're going to be talking about for a long time.
You know, there's times where I question whether or not I want to keep going and doing this stuff. And I've had so much fun doing this with you guys since last fall and now into basketball. And like last night is a reminder to me of why I keep going with it, because that girls' game last night, if you gave me that game 10 nights in a row, I would buy a ticket all 10 nights. I mean, it was that good. Like it was that like still high level basketball. And then Monday night, I mean, we're talking, obviously we're talking college, but, getting to call a game-winning 3-pointer in the NCAA tournament on, Monday night for Indiana University of PA, like that, it's stuff like that. Like you can't replicate those things. And like, it makes it, I hope people still understand that. And college is a little bit different because there was plenty of students that were there and, that place was packed. But I think that this Old Forge, I'm going to be looking forward to their crowd because I deeply remember the Carbondale teams in the early 90s, and you had to be at the Hershey Park Arena like at 4 a.m. to get in the door there. Literally the whole town was there. The pothole came from Archibald down to go to the game itself. The actual pothole was at the game, I think. But like it was a madhouse, and I really hope that Old Forge team gets that following there this weekend.
Eric, real quick too, the other team we got to mention is with the 1A girls, because Williamsburg did something I don't think anybody was thinking possible. They're the 4th place team out of District 6. And how good is District 6? They've been the Final Four on the Western half each of the last 2 years. They're the number 4 seed each of the last 2 years. They go off, they beat Guilfoyle. And then I got to shout to Leanna Royer because she was guarding the Crispin girl there from St. Joseph, who poured like 38, 39 points in the game before and held it to single digits. I mean, just the defense that they've been able to pull off. They pulled off a couple of huge upsets to go from the 4th place team in their district, knock off 2 more from their district to get to states for the first time in almost 30 years. So I want to give a shout out to the Pirates as well because they were one game short a couple of years ago too. They were an undefeated season. I think it was when Union won their state title. Correct. They knocked them off.
You are correct. And I believe Crispin from St. Joe's, her father, just got hired as the head coach at Air Force too. He's going to leave the Penn State staff. So that might be a bit of a blow there for St. Joe's. That St. Joe's program is ridiculous because I was working in State College when that team started, and then for them to build from the ground up and what they've become is like almost unheard of. Bob, one last thing I'll ask you. Do you have like, is there a game that you've done at this level that you constantly hope every year that you come back to do a final that a game you do reaches that level? Is there one that stands out from all the time you go back to your time with PCN, or even if you did, EEU? I'm talking strictly basketball here, because football, I mean, for football, for me, it's easy. It's a 7 overtime game for a district title. But
Right.
is there one that you've done at this level in this building that, or even at the Jordan Center, that you kind of hope a game comes close to that standard?
From an atmosphere standpoint, there is one and there is no 1A, and that's Reading High against Pine Richland in 2017 when the Giant Center was sold out. It's what you would. I mean, look, the reality of 10,000 people is not going to happen, but the reality of that kind of an atmosphere, even if it was 4,000 or 5,000, it would feel like it, because the crowds haven't been to that level. But when the Giant Center was sold out in 2017 for that Reading High Pine Ridge game, it was amazing, and the buzz that was in that place at 10 a.m., much less at 8 p.m. At 10 a.m., there was already a buzz in the building through all of it. So from an atmosphere standpoint, that was it. One of the games that really jumps out at me was the Kennedy Catholic game against Penridge.
Yes. Where Penridge almost beat them in the block on Shebway at the end of the
overtime,
game.
yes. And the kid from Penridge who blocked a shot. I mean, one of the most incredible single plays I've ever seen, and it was a block shot.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought Shebway was going to bring the house down on a power dunk, and that kid at 6'2" went straight up with him and blocked the shot. And the game ultimately went in overtime. Kennedy Catholic won it. But just, this is what I talk about. And you were talking about games, the game you had in the semifinal. I had back-to-back games, District 3 playoff games. I mentioned that the Wilson Dallastown girls game, overtime game. Wilson won it at overtime. That was on a Thursday night. Then Friday night, Berks Catholic beats Bishop McDevitt in overtime. For a 24-hour period of time, four teams who just put everything they had into it, not for 32 minutes, obviously, but for 36 minutes. And that's what I love about this. What I love about this is this isn't the NBA, and it isn't even college basketball. And that's what's fun about it, because these kids give so much, so hard for those 32 minutes, and means so much to them. And that's what I love about it.
They may not play at the next level. This might be it for them too. You don't know. Yeah, absolutely. This literally might be it for somebody this weekend.
Yep.
That Penridge game, I've said this to anybody who will believe it. So I had the semifinal with that Kennedy team before that when they played Coatesville. And I mean, at the Magic Dome in Williamsport, which is one of the best venues to ever do a game at, it's up there with Martz Hall. Martz is still a very distant one, but like a 2 would be the Magic Dome. And then, you get to the Palestra, probably would actually be 2, but I'm talking like on a regular basis here. And not just for like a secular league, that does their championship there. The game with Coatesville, place was again sold out, and you sit in this like crow's nest that's above the court. You are closer to the roof of the building than you are to a fan, because you have to climb up a ladder and go to like this landing. And, I'm Bob, I'm 260 pounds here. I'm going up this ladder thinking this thing ain't going to hold me and somebody else. There's no way. We got 4 people up here. It's not going to work. But you're talking about the buzz in the building. Like, there was a buzz that night in that game. And I'll never forget this. There was a play late in the game where Oscar Shebway got a ball and he went up to dunk, and literally the rafter was shaking back and forth as Coatesville went down the other way. And I'm walking out of that gym and I'm like, I'm not going to see a game that good again. And the next week was the Penn Ridge game. And that weekend was the Penn Ridge game. And the Penn Ridge game's, I think, the best state final I've seen since I've gotten into this stuff. I understand the Reading side of it from your point. And like the Reading Wood game was great a couple years later. Like that was a great
It was a great game because nobody gave Reading a shot. And those are the games that I remember more than any of them, is the games where somebody was quote unquote prohibitive favorite, and it didn't happen. I go back to, I think it was 2013. Lower Marion knocks off Chester, and the Ronnie Jefferson Chester team that just beat the daylights out of everybody, including Lower Marion a couple times.
Yep.
And Lower Marion knocked them off. Those are the games I remember.
The 05 game between those two was great. When Devon McClendon like switched hands in like midair and like dunked on somebody in that game, or he did something weird like in midair and like dunked on a guy or whatever. And one of the last great Fred Pickett teams like this, just so many memories. And like you start thinking about those things when you get like the further away from them. And I had this conversation with James's sister at the WPIAL finals before a game, and she had asked me, she was like, how much do you remember about some of these games? And I'm like, you know, you could ask me about a game maybe from like 2 weeks ago, and I'm not going to remember much of it because it might be a throwaway, but there might be like 15 or 16 of them, and one of them might be from when I was like 5 and watching a guy like Billy Owens, and I'll tell you everything about that game because it just stands out that much. Like that's the level we're hoping we get, you know, year in and year out. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't know. We'll see.
And if that's the memories that we have, imagine the memories that the kids are making and the parents are making.
That's exactly right. Any parting thoughts from either one of you as we get out of here for the night and get on our way to the Giants Center tomorrow morning?
Just looking forward to being back at it, and hopefully, again, people continue to look forward to what we're doing with the radio network. It's an awesome opportunity, and again, it's getting out there for people to consume the product somehow, somewhat, wherever you are, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, you can find us. We're going to be there. We're going to bring all the games to you, and hopefully we'll do the games justice.
Should have a good post game halftime show for you. We should be getting player interviews. I believe we are on the floor tomorrow. I don't know our assignment just quite yet, and I'm told we're going to get the Gov too at some point this weekend if he shows up. So that'll be good.
Great.
And I want to give a shout out to all the fans who will be making the travel, including a certain group of fans who will remain nameless, who are part of a group that's been there for now 31 plus years. If you see, fans with the bingo card on their shirts?
Bob, I'll have to explain that to you tomorrow. That's a little too inside baseball.
That's a teaser. That's a teaser for the shows this week.
Yes. All right, so we will be at it tomorrow morning. The games kick off tomorrow afternoon, at noon, with the 2A girls game. It's the defending state champs, Berlin Brothers Valley. They will take on the Shannock. Let's tell you tomorrow's slate of games for you that we will have. All the links are available on our YouTube page. Thanks to James, who has put all that stuff together behind the scenes, and a big shout out to our friend Tyler Polk, who did all of our imaging for us this weekend. Tomorrow, it's the Shannock and Berlin Brothers Valley at 12. Then the 1A boys game with Neighborhood Academy and Sankofa Freedom. Andrew Callista and Rich Scarcella have that game. Greensburg Central Catholic and Holy Redeemer comes your way. The 3A girls game at 6. And then the night game, Obama Academy taking on Devon Prep. Friday, you've got Williamsburg and Delco Christian to lead it off in 1A girls. Then it's 2A boys with Sewickley Academy and Old Forge. Dallastown and Upper Dublin at 6A girls at 6 p.m. And then the 5A boys game to cap off Friday. It's West York and Bonner Prendergast. And then the final day of the basketball season for 25-26, it's Oakland Catholic, Newman Goretti. Make sure you don't miss that one. Trinity and West Catholic and boys 3A. South Fayette girls take on Archbishop Wood at 6. And the final game of the year is the 6A boys game with Imhotep and Central Dauphin. If you need to find us, you can search on YouTube. Just type in PIAA Radio Network. You can type it in all as one word. All the links are up there for the games coming up. All the preview shows we have done are on there. If you want to go back and listen to any of our football coverage, you can go ahead and do that as well. And we will have all the games for you coming up starting tomorrow at 12 noon. So, gentlemen, I thank you very much. And Mr. McCool, I'll see you there tomorrow at some point. And again, looking forward to working with you, Rich Scarcella, Christy Britton, and also Andrew Callista. And we'll have them all for you beginning at 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
See you in Hershey, boys.
All righty, that'll do it for our preview show. We'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon from the Giants Center. You've been listening to the PIAA High School Basketball Championship Preview Show right here on the PIAA Radio Network.